philosophy is 20 degrees wind chill or temperature, that and extra pair of socks and a sweatshirt come out.
Call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission for meeting for Monday, January 13th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Rocco Gonzalez.
Here.
Mark Kleesner. Mark Piontek. Tom Holtmeyer.
Here.
Mayor Hagedorn. John Borgman.
Here?
Chuck Watson.
Here.
Chad Briggs. Carolyn Witt. Here. Mike Wood. Here. Sarah Skeen. Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the minutes, approval of the minutes from the November 12th, 2024 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I have one addition in the members present should include your name.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have you there, and you were there further back in the discussion, but, and I know you were there because I wasn't running the meeting.
I did look at the discussion, I didn't read the names.
Other than that, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to item number 3, file number 250101, preliminary plat, Du Bois Center, plat 6. Sarah?
So good evening and welcome. It's been a couple months since we've all seen each other. We have a preliminary plat of the Du Bois Center, which is the End Sport Recreation. And then there is another parcel that's affected in this. It's kind of like a little boundary adjustment attached to it. So you can see the lines changing with the dotted green hatched, I guess it's teal lines there. So this is where they're going to want to do the subdivision. So they'll have a lot here and a lot here, and then just carve a little bit off of, and I'll show you the next lot here, or the next plat here, off of lot 9. So 9 is going to lose not much, but then the roadway, they'll have a shared easement there between those lots. You see that there is a green sewer line that runs to the NREC Center, and then there is a black sewer line that we don't maintain that line. It's a private line. They are going to put an easement on that line, but we are not taking over that sewer line, but that is going to be the responsibility of the whatever property owner for Lot 4B when this goes to final plat and that property changes hands. So all the other utilities and everything are in city maintenance agreement, but except for that black line there.
Any questions or comments?
So Lot 4B has access from the front of End Sports, and there's nothing off of Highway 100, correct?
No, nothing off of Highway 100. There's that parking lot. They'll share that parking lot.
So they'll share the
Yeah.
drive, will be their access to that lot.
Correct. So there'll be a shared easement, ingress and egress right there, that drive right along NREC or End Sports.
Where is the sewer?
So the green line at the top of the plat, you can see that is our sewer. Yep. And then it comes down and it meets that black line. The black line is private.
Okay.
So that will be the sewer, like a sewer lateral, so to speak, for Lot 4B. The water is along 100, so that's a no-brainer. It actually goes into Lot 4B.
It's city water.
Correct, city water. Mhm.
Any other questions? Comments?
I'd like to hear from the applicant.
If you would, want to come up as the applicant, please?
Yes, I'm Randy Kleiner with the End Sports Rec Center.
Any questions?
Any
Do you have any
questions?
comments?
No, we kind of met with the city. Everything's, should be okay.
So the reason we're doing this is because you have a potential buyer for the Lot 4B?
Yes, we
Okay.
do. What we're doing here, they actually are wanting the building, but they want the other lot too, but we're just financing that for a few years till they can close on that.
Okay.
But if something happened that they don't, that's why we need the easement through the front of the property.
Okay.
Other than that, that's it.
Randy, are you at liberty to say what they're going to propose to put on?
What they're gonna do with it, same thing. They're just gonna add more programs. So they're gonna keep it as a rec center.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments by board? All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this? There's nothing else. Any other discussion by board?
I'll move approval.
Second.
First and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Moving on to item number 4, file number 250102, Elliot Eman, special use permit, open storage of construction materials. Sarah?
Yes, so this is a really thin sliver of land, mostly creek, that is currently owned by the Washington Chamber of Commerce. And the applicant would like to have an open storage area if they were to purchase the property so that they can store construction equipment, and I think some machinery as well for a business that they run. I think it's siding. So in our zoning code, it's required to have a special use permit, even though, as you know, in the industrial areas, we do have a lot of property owners that have open storage regardless. That's, we do have a few, including the city, that has some things being stored outside. So he's going through the channels, he's asking for a special use permit so that he can store those materials. And this is basically where you will find the only buildable space. And when I say buildable, originally he was gonna build a building. So if he chose to build a building, he could have built a building within that footprint of the setbacks, which is not a lot. So he decided that it'd probably be more beneficial to just create a fenced-in area, have some gravel and store outside. So the use, it's small compared to what's typically out there in a industrial park. There's not gonna be any added traffic. It's just 1 or 2 people going there once or twice a day. No added noise. It's just a vehicle and moving some equipment. There's no real demand on public services. The appearance is gonna look the same, except for it's gonna be enclosed with slats, a 6-foot fence, just under 2,000 square feet. No added lighting, no change in the landscaping. I know we do have some questions about what's gonna happen to the trees, so we can address that. But there is a 20-foot buffer that's already there in place that will remain untouched. And then as for infiltration of water, it will be mostly gravel, so water will not be just running off into the creek, like if you just lay down a bunch of concrete. So there'll be that there. At minimal, the driveway and the parking pad will be concreted. So the plat itself, or the site plan, this is what was submitted to the city. And again, it's 32 by 60, so just under 2,000 square feet. And like I said before, it's the 6-foot chain link fence with privacy slats that goes around it. It is currently set in the building setback, but because it's not a building, we have some wiggle room. We can make some adjustments to where it's placed on that property. And I recently, it's not in your packet, but I dug this out from the archives, and I just highlighted where the open storage would be, so you can get a better picture of where that stormwater easement is. That's highlighted in green, the 20-foot buffer between the residential and the industrial park, and then where you see his enclosed area would be.
So what is the green again, you said?
It's the
That's-
stormwater easement,
Okay.
so it's pretty much the entire parcel.
And then the open storage is where the applicant's wanting to put the space?
Correct.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. I guess my only question is, putting on that side of the road, I know there's enough space probably on the other side of the road that's also with the buildings that already have industrial use. Is there a reason for, I guess we can have the applicant come up, but is there a reason why it's not just on the other side of the road with the other industrial use buildings?
For that parcel, there is no room, there's no, because of the stormwater easements, the entire thing is a creek and, for retaining water, so there is no other
On the
side.
Yeah, I think on the other side.
Like
somebody
other
else-
side, like the
somebody
north,
else
south
owns it.
side.
Somebody else owns that.
Got it.
Oh, I see what you're saying, on the
South
other
side.
road, the other side of the road.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, that's not, I don't think that's for sale.
Got it.
Any other questions?
I have, oh, go ahead.
No, go
John?
ahead, Carol.
Well, I had been contacted by several neighbors, and it was very clear on the previous, or even on this one, that it does back up to a residential area. And from my understanding, the topography is such that the houses are at a higher elevation, and a 6-foot fence isn't gonna, now I realize there is a buffer, and we talked about the trees, but I think there was some concern, an open storage, area, okay, they back up to an industrial park, but that's, if it was in a building, they might, I don't know what their attitude would be, but the idea of an open storage, just piles of stuff, there's some concern from the neighbors the residential area that it's bordering up on, it's right there. So that's, I think, and there's some people here to discuss that tonight, but I kind of agreed with that I had a concern that, of course, I'm the least popular on this board because I always listen to the neighbors, because I think that's,
Who said that?
well, maybe, but.
You just spoke first tonight, that's all.
Right, that's right, the softy, but anyway, I think that is something we need to consider.
And I agree with Carolyn. I went and looked at the site best I could with the snow and ice that we had out there. And being a resident of Don Valley, I know the neighborhood. I've walked Michelle Drive many times over the years. And that was there first, before Town and Country was built in the early 90s. In fact, Don Drive, Michelle Drive was outside the city
It was.
when I built.
I remember.
So anyway, to agree with you that the elevation, the 6-foot fence really isn't going to do anything, and I do not want to see any trees come down in there just because of that buffer. You don't have a normal buffer like you normally do, because the creek, and I call it a creek or a very, very large ditch, is pretty deep, and the trees don't grow in that 20-foot area where the creek is.
Right.
So, I think it's important that we maintain that buffer, if you want to call it that wooded area behind those homes, because it is a very nice, back behind all those homes on that side is a very nice setting back in there from the north side off of Michelle Drive. So that's my thoughts on it.
Anyone else on the board?
The only other question would be, with our comprehensive plan for the next 5 years, are we wanting to expand industrial in that area or residential? I'm not sure if you know on top of head, Sarah.
Well, it's already zoned industrial, so it's gonna stick with that zoning type
Okay.
and that use. Yeah, I mean, I didn't do a survey, but most of those properties are being used by industrial uses.
Got it.
That's why it's an industrial park.
Yeah. That's why they put it there.
Questions or
Yeah.
comments? Anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Are you here for the applicant? I'm here to take questions. If you would, come on up and introduce yourself.
I'm Don Eman.
Relationship to?
I'm the father of Elliot,
Okay.
Washington Roofing.
Any questions?
So Donnie, how did you come up with this site of,
From the chamber.
okay,
I was on the fair board for a few years and I met somebody there. But no, that's how.
Okay.
They had a site. And where the building was set back to, we was talking about maybe moving this fence forward, because really FEMA owns the waterway.
Right.
And then the city maintains that for FEMA. And there's it's, if you walk that creek at all, it's straight up and down.
Yep.
And it really needs to be fixed, whether somebody puts something there or not, because if you, where that building corner was gonna go, if that water got back in there at all, it would undermine the corner of that foundation and stuff, so that just wasn't gonna work. And the kid just started this business, basically a year old now, and we're just trying to find a spot. And if I could buy those lots across the street, I would.
Right.
Because I've asked all of them through there. I've asked.
Have you looked at leasing it? I mean, it doesn't appear that, I don't even know who owns it, but they're not using it for
They're
anything.
not
I
using
mean,
it. FASA owns the one in between Advanced Plumbing and then where their building is. And then Sean Mayoff has the other one. Now there's a carport on there with camper or whatever.
Yeah.
And they use it like that. And if the people that were in Advanced Plumbing before, I think they still own part of that other lot because they did expand it not too long ago.
I was just wondering if, I mean, if they didn't want to sell it, if they'd let you put the outdoor facility on there, lease it, whatever it might be. I don't know if it's advantageous to
I'm
you or
telling you.
your son's business, but it just makes more sense. I agree with Roscoe. If you were on the other side of the street, I think
Oh.
everybody'd be okay with it, but
There-
where you're putting it is the tough spot.
There is no doubt.
Right.
I retired at the end of January last year, and I've been from one end of this town out around Franklin County looking for property. And once you start getting inside of town, you're looking at $300,000, $400,000, and this kid just started this business up. And, you know, and this is small. I'm sure he'd outgrow it, but you just don't have that kind of funds right now. I mean, I'm calling Aaron Griesheimer. I mean, everybody I can think of, farmers, everybody. Give me an acre of land. Just what do you want for an acre? And I think I'm going across the river tomorrow. Any help would be appreciated. But the kid needs to start somewhere.
Any other questions, comments?
I understand, I'm concerned about the trees too.
Well,
Can you be flexible?
as far as the trees, you got your 20-foot buffer on the other side of the creek.
Okay.
And then you got the creek, and that's more than 20 foot wide. And then you got the trees. For anybody to do anything with that property, with the utility setbacks and all that stuff, it's economically silly. Because you'd have to put minimum a 4-foot pipe in there. And I'm sure you'd want it extended all the way to the main creek. And I've been in construction for 37 years, and that's a lot of money. Because it has to probably be RCP, concrete pipe. That's a lot of money.
What are you planning on storing on there? What's the materials or trucks or?
It's, what he has, he uses new siding and roofing, and more than anything, he has a little extra left of siding from anything. Usually he can take the shingles back. And he's got it in his yard down in Labadee right now, and they're gonna start bitching at him about that, so we gotta find something. And he doesn't have a lot for being in there a year. So, and then he uses some of that material too.
Any other questions?
Would the privacy fence conceal what's being stored?
It's, for everything that he's got now, oh yeah. And the equipment she's talking about is pickup trucks. There's no deliveries being made there, none of that. Everything gets delivered on site. There's not a constant in and out. And if I could find something before that, I would.
The permit would go with the property.
Correct. That's, the-
That's one of the sticking points with me is that down the road, anybody can come in and use it then for outside storage. And we don't know in the future what's gonna be on there.
Right.
So that could be a problem in the future.
When you sell another piece of property, like they sold that one coming down the hill on the right of the industrial track with all the military stuff in it, you didn't know all that was gonna be in there, did you?
Oh, no, but that's different. They can do that at that location, right?
at Midwest Military,
Yeah,
they're storing of their vehicles.
yeah.
You know, there is one, Darren, had told me there's one special use permit out there for open storage, and it was not that location. It was the Marathon Petroleum. I tried to search for it and I couldn't find it, but he said, I was here, I know that we did a special use permit for that. Put up the buffer of the trees to kind of mask the storage. That's the only one. Otherwise, Midwest Military does not have one. And I don't know, you know, how it got as far as it did. It's been there historically, way before my time, so.
We can check that out and see why, if they're doing that the way they should. Any other questions, comments? Thanks. We may have more later.
Sure,
Okay.
thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak, please come up and your name and address.
Hi, I recognize some faces up there. I'm Kate Montgomery. This is my husband, Dave Montgomery. We live at 449 Michelle Drive. So up there it says Fuller, Harold, and Sylvia Fuller. That's who built our house. So we have a perfect view of the flags that have the pink, the poles that have the pink flags on them. We can see where that red square is gonna be, right out our kitchen window. And there are trees inside that. So,
Some fairly large trees,
Yeah.
I mean,
so, and I have young kids about the same age as Donnie and Brenda's kids, cause we all have lived there about the same amount of time, 30, 40 years, all of us sitting here. Well, maybe not folks, they haven't been there quite that long, but almost. So, we're neighbors, we're all neighbors with each other for a long time. I understand that Elliot's starting a business, it's a wonderful thing. I have 3 girls that are just starting out too. That, you know, I would like adults to cut them a break too, but not at the expense of my neighbors. You know, it just doesn't feel right. There is a buffer zone on that map, and there is one behind my house, but nothing grows in that ditch. Sometimes it's really low with water, and when we get a lot of rain, it's really full. It goes into Cheryl and Dale's backyard, way into their backyard. It's out of its banks. So, yes, up there it looks like a really great buffer zone, but in real life, when you start taking trees down, it's not so much. And from my swimming pool, I may not be able to see inside a privacy fence. No, even inside the pool, I might be able to. But from inside my house, where our houses all sit, we're gonna be able to see everything inside the fence. Every pile of shingles, every stack of siding, we're gonna be able to see all that just because our houses sit up above the drainage ditch, which is kind of the idea of a drainage ditch, or a creek, as we call it. I don't wanna, we don't do this. None of us do this. You don't know any of us here. You know us because I watch you walk past my house. Mike knows me because he helped one of my teacher friends out once. Carolyn knows me because my girls thought she was God at the library. You don't know us.
She
here.
thinks that too.
No. Well, you don't know us because we don't do this. And we love Don and Brenda and their kids because they're the same as our kids. But I would just really encourage you to really think about us in making this decision.
and there's several, I've been back there and walked into the property where it's at, and there's
several big trees that would have to come down to accommodate that piece. And then there's enough noise from the industrial track it is. You start taking trees down, then it's gonna get louder. And
And we don't complain
Our
about
neighbors
the
is too-
industrial, we're good neighbors with them. We don't complain about that.
they were, I think back in 1992, it was said that there would never be nothing built back there. But
On our side of the road,
Or-
in this 2-acre little skinny drainage ditch with the little triangle of usable space. But that promise didn't get held too. So here we
right.
are.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, we are Dale and Cheryl Spread, and we live at 451 Michelle Drive. So we're right next to Kate and Dave on the side that will be closest to, that all of this will be behind. So, if not more than Kate and Dave. But our yard is a little different than Kate and Dave because as our hill comes down, like it flattens out at the bottom, and that's all clear, that's our yard. And it goes all the way up to what we call the creek. Like, so we don't have anything between there and towards our house. It's our yard where, you know, our grandkids and everybody play. But, so if they took more trees out behind that creek, close to where they're building, like Dave said, you know, that really takes a lot out for us, for the noise and just to see it. We built a beautiful deck just recently, and I really don't want anyone to walk out onto our deck to look at, you know, over into, because it will definitely look into that area. And I agree. We've been neighbors forever. We love them. We haven't had any trouble with them. Ellie just did my roof. You know, it's no big deal, we also think about like, okay, like, we will downsize someday. We will probably not be in the house forever. If somebody walks out onto our deck and looks back there, say this time of year, and I know when there's trees more, or if they take them down, then that's gonna be an issue, but take some down. And they see that.
Selling point.
Yeah, it's not a selling point for us, and I know several of us might be that stage life. So, I just want you to think about it. I know I sent some emails to some of you. I didn't have everybody's email address, but, we would love to work with this. But another thing, I was talking to somebody that's actually on the city council, and, they said their mom had the same situation. And I'm not saying Elliot would do this, but like you were saying, Tom, who else? Who else could put stuff on there? I think Tom was saying that. And they said it backed up to Sporland or somewhere, and they did the same thing, the special use permit, and this is what they were gonna do, and that's what was gonna happen. And then after they got it, it wasn't the same people even. After they got it, then it just became an eyesore, because they didn't do, these new people didn't do exactly what the former people did. Because Elliot's business is gonna grow. I believe that with all my heart. He's a hard worker. And he's very good with his business. We firsthand. And that's not gonna be enough for him. Anyway, I mean, I wish we could give him that little, and I hope you don't, but if you did, I think he's not gonna use it very long, I hope, but even if he did, somebody else is gonna come in there and want that. So that's our concern as the ones pretty much right behind all that with Dave and Kate, that it's not something we wanna look out, and I just get concerned about noise and stuff like that. So, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say one more thing also. Thank you for what you all said. I reiterate what all of you said about the trees and everything and the noise, but you said something about not much traffic. We live there. There's a lot of traffic in and out there, especially at night.
Yeah.
I hear them back there racing. Right when we got in the car to leave night, the truck was back and ripping up through there. This happens all the time, especially in warmer weather. I get so aggravated with all the noise and stuff, and so I'm concerned about the future for kids, so, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, in respect to that, I meant to say not added. Yes, of course, there's traffic there, and the other businesses have plenty of traffic, and then, of course, we have evening traffic when we shouldn't, but the added traffic will not, there will not be added traffic.
Anybody else?
Good evening. Steve Struberg. I actually live on 3rd Street, but my parents, Rich and Barb, live at 447 Michelle Drive. I grew up there, and I actually lived there for a couple months this summer while I was renovating. I think, Mom and Dad and the Vosses have been there from the beginning, from 78, 79. This was all field. It was a farm field. We went rabbit hunting, squirrel hunting back there, and never thought twice. We were in the county back then. The whole subdivision was in the county. A lot of people, I think, were under the impression that this was a buffer itself from the back property line to the street. I think the big concern is the visibility of all this, what could happen in the future. There's a lot of talk about open storage. Some of the examples that were cited, I would consider, you see it all over the industrial park, but I look at that is accessory use. It's an accessory use to whatever the plant is there. If you go to even the Midwest military, that's not their, that's a big part of their business, but they have buildings with it. You go out to WAG Transformers, you drive around the back, you see transformers, but the primary business is industrial. And I don't think open storage really would classify as an industrial use. I know it's a special use within that zone. So I get concerned, the 6-foot fence, everybody brought up the topography, you can see over that. My concern is also in the future, a storage container, that's probably 8 foot, 8'6", something like that, might not happen now, but what's gonna happen in the future and how much will these people see? It's been a nice buffer. The industrial park's been a good neighbor farm the way it is now. I wish it could be on the other side. We worry about the stormwater easement. There's a lot of trees there now, but what could happen in the future? Trees, there's already been some that have come down over the years. So nothing's getting planted back, unfortunately. And will that buffer continue to diminish? Because it says there's a buffer yard there, but I would say probably behind Charlie and Sharon's house and a few others, it's opened up over the years by trees falling, and you don't have that 20-foot buffer with the number of plantings that is required between the residential and the M2, I guess, the industrial use. And the way I read that buffer should be that entire length of that northern property line. And I think currently you don't have it, but the ditch helps, and that whole property, that whole width of the property helps. So, I understand starting a business. I'm not as young as he was, but I understand starting a business out, and that's great. But I also look at the neighborhood there, and these people have been there for a long time, and I just hate to have something visible like that down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak? Is there any other comments by board members?
I think we need to really consider what we've heard tonight. I'm looking at the yards. I'm pretty sure that buffer is probably being used as some of their backyards now, because that's typically what happens, over time, which is fine. Nobody else is going to maintain it, so why not let the property owners maintain that? If it can beautify their property, that's just something that they are aware of that could change down the road at some point in time. But I would not be in favor of seeing any trees come down, anything change there to affect that buffer that they currently have to the industrial park. And Donnie, I know that your son's trying to, I get that. You gotta start somewhere, but I just wish you had a different place where you could find to start. I'm sorry, just the way I feel.
Any other comments?
I applaud both sides for being respectful and just the way you harnessed your passion. I understand that. It's just nice to see it makes it easier for us to make a good decision based on facts rather than emotion. So, thank you. I have to agree with John.
My biggest holdback is what's gonna happen in the future.
Right.
You know, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, it's kinda tough right there. Anything else?
I believe in the future we'd be open to other areas, other special use permits, things like that, for all the reasons that you're talking about, of why it could not be an issue, but it is just all the comments that have been said already. It's a bad place for all these different things.
If there's nothing else, I entertain a motion.
I would motion that we deny the special use permit.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
So, you're opposed, Chuck? Okay. Did you get that? All righty. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yep. Sarah, anything else?
I showed, if you want to stay for a minute, some
You guys
work
can go if you want, but if you're entertained, you can stay.
So I'm working on, I don't want you to think I forgot about the comp plan. And I'm working on a little project to showcase Washington, and I am going to have to do a search for it.
She is amazing with her,
Maps?
yes,
I
yes.
am not really that amazing, but I do keep plugging at it.
ArcGIS is fun. It's a fun thing.
It is. It can be frustrating, and I'm currently not in the right spot, so give me a second.
Take your time.
There it is.
We're
So-
early yet.
It's called a story map, and so we're working on some of the tedious details, but I just wanted you guys to see what's gonna hopefully come out here pretty soon.
When you say a story, did you say a story app or a story
Story map.
map?
So ArcGIS has all kinds of capabilities, from the static maps that you see that we create, and then the interactive maps. I was just showing the Historic Preservation Commission the map that I put plaques on. I mapped them on there with some information, and I'm wanting to put some pictures up there too, so you can look at this to kind of get an idea for what I'm doing there. So this is a story. It's like a story that tells the viewer what we're trying to do. So I started with our community vision, and I added that in there as a quote, and then I moved on to, so I'm kind of following through our comp plan. So if you take the book and then you line it up to this, then you can kind of see how I'm flowing with this.
Starting at what point now until the end of the comp
Well,
plan,
there-
or the prior comp plan up until now and on to?
Our new comp plan, how it is laid out.
Okay.
So they start with background information, they highlight what we're doing well, they talk about economic development and kind of our community events and things like that, our demographics. So this is just, again, another tool to be visual with our public. So you can see that there's little pins, and when you hover over a pin, it will take you to that place on the map. So we're looking at a map of Washington. So I have a couple pins on here already showcasing some of those places that were talked about in the comp plan. And then going forward, we have goals. So there's goals that were set in place. And so then there is more maps. So our goal, maybe not to grow uncontrollably, but we do want to grow at a healthy 3%. So I stole a couple maps from the comp plan which they took from Historical Society and added those on there to showcase what we used to look like, a little story here about the city of Washington and some recent demographic data there. And then if you, go into the map, you can click on and you can see, it says, technically it says like annexed in, 2010 or something, but you can open it up and let me see if I can get that in there. Oh. And you can kind of delve deeper. Well, let's not do this now because it's probably going to open another page. But the user should be able to get in there and look at the different areas that were annexed at different times. Maybe if I'm not in here.
Does that go back to like, is it 67, 69, when
Yes.
when they froze the library district?
Oh, the
Because-
library
Goes back to the
district?
40s, apparently.
No.
Like
that-
1860?
Yeah, it was in the 60s that the public library districts in the state of Missouri were frozen. That if a county or a city annexed, the library district did not grow. At that time, when it was frozen, 14th Street was the south border, Grand Avenue was the west, and it's a little dicey on the east side. It kind of comes and goes. But the idea is that is what is paying library taxes. And that is where you have somebody like Andy Understall doing development in downtown, which in the 50 years I've been here, in the old days, we went 30 years where there was nothing going on downtown. Everything was out. And the fact that what that has done to the assessed valuation of the library district is amazing. And then we increased the tax base. So all this is good. And that, I can tell you that the library board and the library would, if you could include that on a map. I had a map, a physical map that had that, but somewhere after I left, it disappeared. But, and I get a kick out of your original towns, Nearstein and Basora and Washington, and South Point, because that's what we grew from.
Right, so
Anyway,
that's
sorry.
on there. When I finally figured out how to zoom in, because I can't see very well, just clicking the little plus button, you can kind of look and see the dates. So that would be the month and then the year of when those parcels were annexed in. And you can see that growth there. So, and I can add the library district as well, if you want.
That would be usable because occasionally it comes up, what's in the district, what isn't, and
Yeah.
it's good to have a representation of that.
So I'm just going through the goals, adding maps that we currently have that kind of showcase what that's, pertaining to, like our industrial parks, which we just were talking about, one of our industrial parks, and how they're so important. They're, a lot of our employment goes to the industrial parks, and if it wasn't for them, we probably wouldn't have the economic base that we have. So it just, again, it's like a side project. When I have time, I thought I was going to have time this winter, and it seemed like it's just steady, with lots of stuff, but not so much planning and zoning, just a lot of other things. And so I'm really hoping to have this done and put together by May, because that would be our 1-year anniversary of adopting the comp plan.
That's great.
So,
It looks really good.
Yeah.
I do enjoy, because I do a lot of dashboard and data visualization, right? But
Yeah.
it's hard to have, it's just a story whenever you're just looking at a map or a table or whatever.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
the
important to have those
comprehensive plan is-
anecdotes, the history
Yeah.
align with it, just makes a lot better perspective.
right. So if you don't like reading large, books, lots of pages, delving through it, then this is the way to kind of get the gist of what that is. And it'll be updated, so as we are, changing and growing and adding new things, you'll see that on the story map.
That's great.
Much greater big picture overview kind of thing.
Yeah.
Something else I think we need to kind of stay on top of, and that's our progress with the comp plan.
Right.
And what you said kind of tickled my ear to think about that, because in May, we're going to be at 1/10 of the comp plan already. So what have we done, or what have we started to prepare for going forward that we have seeing some movement and not just a document that's sitting on somebody's desk somewhere?
Right,
There is a
yeah.
proposed timeline in there. in the document.
And that's my point, is, we adopted that. I think we need to be the entity that pushes and makes sure that that stays in the forefront and stay on timeline.
And there was in the document an actual tracker, at least that they drafted, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah,
So whatever we could do to put that on there would be very helpful.
Yeah.
yeah.
I know it's-
Definitely working on that.
Yeah.
It was divided out by, I think, city department too, who was kind of responsible for that area of the different areas, so yeah.
And I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of that, because I don't want to be 5 years from here, 4 years from now, and it's like, oh, well, we really
Yeah,
haven't
what are we
done
doing?
anything, you
So
know?
that's the goal of
Where are
this.
we, you know, with the
Right.
goals that were set?
We shouldn't have to
in-
ask that question. We should have
yeah.
that information becoming.
So
available to us.
at the same time, at 1 year anniversary, you're gonna give us an update as far as what we have accomplished so far, or where we are on overview of a lot of these different things, just
Yeah.
a summary kind of thing too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, we are working on a few things. I'd like to see more code changes happen to facilitate more of a multimodal and mixed-use type of development, especially, you know, you see our shopping centers that are just dying, and we talked about changing the parking minimums. We did successfully. But again, it's not really bringing in a lot of new users, and maybe we could think of more creative ways to use those spaces. You know, we don't maybe need another Big Lots. When that one's gone, maybe we can think of doing some other things there, and it all comes with code. So
Would-
that's,
Would that be affordable for the developer of those lots? Would that be affordable for the developer of the lot to switch it over from, I guess, like Bernacci? Is he
Yeah.
amenable to this, or is he thinking, no way, I'm losing
well,
money doing that?
he's probably doing okay with the Phoenix Center's doing all right. I think maybe the other developers, like Washington Square, is really losing a lot of, you know, tenants, and not a lot of people are really interested in visiting and, you know, shopping there. So maybe that would be our launching pad, is to, you know, reach out to, and I don't even have a name right now, but reach out and find out if they'd be willing to think outside the box. If we were on board with, you know, changing our code and pushing that through. And I would, you know, obviously talk to Aaron Griesheimer, and, because that's economic development, and get him on board with helping with that. But we got to bring some life back into that, those shopping complexes.
Because then that actual tracker will help us say, out of like the 20 things that are on the tracker, we want to focus on like these 2 this year, or these 4, or whatever.
Yeah.
Then we can actually be very proactive with it, so that it's a little bit more practical, and then just more bite-sized, more doable.
So closer to home, I'm sure you're all aware, we are working on an economic impact study for the Fifth Street corridor. So that's definitely happening. I don't see why that would come back as, oh, no, you know, TIF district wouldn't be wise, because I do see a lot of need and attention for that district. So hopefully we can get the ball rolling there, and then pursue the larger commercial areas, so.
And some of that may just have to be redeveloped. I mean, it's been out there, that was more value when the first one that came in there, you know, that's, it was kind of interesting. We had a little incident on a light fixture in J.C. Penney the other day, and I just happened to talk to some of the employees, and I said, yeah, we've had a fire in this building that was pretty substantial when it was the Walmart First Supercenter. And they said, what? You know, they had no idea, you know, and yeah, they were younger people, but they had no idea. Number one, it was a Walmart. Number two, they had a major fire there. And number three, because the one kid said, you know, I hope this building doesn't burn. I said, oh, it's burned before, you know, we've handled it. You know, but it's just like, I think that's, the community doesn't realize the historical thing going on there. And sometimes a revitalization is what you need in order to bring that new life back into an area. And I think it's just something we need to stay on top of.
Both of those areas, like you say, the shopping center with Big Lots and the Pennies and stuff, I mean, there's so much of that parking that is just unused, that could be perimeter small stores and stuff in there,
and I
just
think
like Jimmy
small's the way
John's
to go.
and stuff, and adding those.
That lot's always been a problem. That lot's always
That
been a
has
problem.
always, that
Oh, yeah,
building has
but it's-
been a problem for 47 years, or however long it's been built. Because,
So,
all right.
definitely not impossible, but something that
That
I
looks
will,
good.
am very interested in working on,
Yes.
so. And then there was a matter of the, I want to say Cribben, but it's not Cribben. Radcliffe, thank you. I don't know, Cribben was in my head, but the Radcliffe property out in the county, that was just a sketch review. So the city did talk to the property owners. There was a conversation. After that, I asked Aaron, he hasn't heard anything, and it hasn't gone to county for preliminary, so I'm not sure where they are with that, division of property there, so.
I would just like to make sure we stay on top of that, because that is very key to our east-west parkway.
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
Yeah, but it's, yeah.
I would like to be informed of what we're
Yeah.
doing.
As soon as something develops, I'll bring it
Yeah.
to the commission.
Every day I come to work, when are they gonna call? You know, it's close enough till, to the holiday break, and I think there's that. We're waiting for something else too.
Yep.
How about that? Is that general enough?
All right, anything else? Entertain one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Is there a football game on tonight?
There is.
Is that the one that's on Prime?
I was thinking that was on Thursday. Yeah.
I really don't think you guys pick.
NFL?
I'm not a football
Don't.
guy, so.
But it's just, I am kind of always leaning in that direction.
I know. Same thing here. It's like all of my wife's family, my family's
Look at the
all
big
over the place,
picture.
so they're never
Well,
at
yeah,
our
I've been
house.
on the comprehensive